Good morning, everyone. Dr. C here. I have a bit of a frog in my throat, so please forgive me. I've been on the radio and podcasts, and I've got one more here in just about a half an hour. But I noticed something particularly peculiar today. There's something in the air, and it's all about the ability of forgiving ourselves. And I know that's a tough, touchy-feely subject, so if that's not your thing, probably want to stop the video now. But we want to be able to look at we're not perfect. I'm sorry to say that this is going to be a tough conversation to have, but I want you to realize you're human. And with that means we get angry, we get frustrated, we look at some of the things in the rearview mirror when we have an idea. It's like, but I haven't finished everything yet, and I want to live in this new environment. I want to thrive. I don't want to just survive. And in some of us, it's a day by day kind of a thing. But the idea is really forgiving yourself for when you make mistakes. And I know a lot of my students, man, we're so hard on ourselves. We are so hard on ourselves. And this is the part where I do a lot of speaking on failure. If you've been watching me for a while, you realize that's kind of what I do. But the point is that failure's not the outcome. Failure's not the destination. Failure is not us. Failure's a process. Failure is part of the learning. How do we know what not to do? We did it. We found it wasn't very successful. There were consequences. It didn't turn out really well. So guess what? We're probably not going to do it again, right? So the idea is how do we navigate these waters when we're not perfect? I know that's the hardest thing that I have with the coach I'm working with is how do I be raw and real in the moment? I don't like when you see me at my worst. I don't like when you don't see me polished and makeuped and I got my whole act together. But here's the part with leadership. And that's what we're talking about this term. The idea is how do we lead ourselves? How do we have that temper tantrum that no one sees behind closed doors? How do we process the inner things aren't going so well? I had a rough night last night. I wasn't terribly pleased with some outcomes that happened yesterday, and I was a little bit raw and a little bit annoyed and angry even, and things just didn't turn out the way I wanted them to. Damn it, right? We got to have that, the little temper tantrum that we like to do. But I want to let you know that sometimes we need to vent. We can't go too far down that rabbit hole and let it go too long, but I schedule my nervous breakdowns. I know when I'm going to say, hey, I've had a bad day. I need to let it out. And I find a colleague to vent. I find a colleague, and I had two very good ones last night, and they put up with my, but it's not working moments, right? And I want you to have that safe place. But here's the thing why we don't like to do it in public. We're afraid what people are going to say. You're afraid if you saw me during one of my epic tantrums, and trust me, I can do a good one to rival any 2 year old, that you wouldn't love me anymore, that you wouldn't see me and respect me as you have with Doc C as your teacher, as your colleague, as your friend, depending on who's watching the video. And that's tough for us. We don't want you to see us in our not so stellar moments. But I need you to realize we have them. And there are some that I'll share with you, and some that I struggle with that I'm still processing myself to find out how the end of the story is going to be written, so to speak. But I want you to be very clear that as you're going through whatever this new normal is you've got to forgive yourself. You've got to identify that you're human. You have to identify that sometimes you're going to fail. Sometimes you're not going to get it right. The question is, what do you do in that defining moment? Do you get yourself up? Do you dust yourself off? Do you start all over again? I don't want you to think that positivity is the only answer going forward. It is, but only if you're authentic. Sometimes we get a little irritated. Sometimes we get annoyed. Family, friends, students, colleagues, business partners, customer service, pick one. We're human. And this is the part where I think we spend a little bit too much time up here, and I've been told I do, and not enough time right here to be able to say, hey, you know what? Yesterday, not a stellar day for me. Didn't like it. Although some really good things happened, I was just out of sorts. My emotions got the best of me. I was really processing something that I'm struggling with. Yes, even Doxy processes things and has struggle things, and I'm not perfect, and sometimes I don't always get it right. And sometimes, but you have to own it. You have to be accountable for it. You have to accept it, and then you have to be able to say, you know what? I'm going to do better next time. So here's my lesson for you this week. Be kind to yourself. Be accountable to yourself, and then let it go and release it. Identify that sometimes we don't always get it right, but offer love and forgiveness to yourself. And know that you've got this. You'll do better tomorrow. All right, I'm Dr. C. I'll talk to you later in the week. See you around the quad. Bye bye.